The heartbroken father of a 12-year-old boy murdered in a machete attack says Melbourne's streets are now more dangerous than his hometown in Sudan.
Where the electric toothbrushes are.
They are overpriced.
Well, they are, fair point. But, you know, of all the things, we've reached the point in Victoria now.
Two young friends on their way home from basketball, brutally ambushed and attacked by a gang of machete-wielding thugs, the pair dying just metres apart, leaving behind two heartbroken families.
Right, let's have a serious chat about what the hell is going on in Melbourne. Because what we're seeing on our streets, it's not just a crime wave. It's a symptom of a much deeper sickness. A sickness that's eating away at the heart of our country. We're talking about a city under siege, a city where kids are being hacked to death with machetes on their way home from a basketball game, a city where families are hiding in their bathrooms while their homes are being shot up. This isn't some dystopian movie. This is Melbourne today. And the worst part? The politicians and the media are either too scared to talk about it or they're actively trying to cover it up. They're telling us we're safer than ever, that crime is going down. But our own eyes are telling us a very, very different story. So today, we're going to do what they won't. We're going to look at the brutal reality of Melbourne's machete violence epidemic. We're going to ask the hard questions, and we're going to expose the truth about Australia's managed decline. And if you want to help us fight back against the lies and the corruption, if you want to be part of a community of real Aussies who are fighting for the future of this country, then you need to join our Patreon. It's where we share the uncensored, unfiltered truth that we can't show you here. It's where we expose the real enemies of Australia. The link is in the description. Join the resistance.
12-year-old Shoal and 15-year-old Dao Akbung were brutally stabbed and hacked with machetes as they walked home from a bus stop on Saturday night.
So let's talk about what happened in Cobblebank. Two kids, 12 and 15 years old, on their way home from playing basketball. Just kids. And they're ambushed by a gang of 8 thugs armed with machetes, hacked to death in the street. Let that sink in for a minute. This isn't a war zone. This is a suburb of Melbourne, and we're seeing violence that you'd expect to see in a failed state. And it's not an isolated incident, is it? That's the scary part. It's happening again and again. A 14-year-old slashed with a machete in broad daylight at Werribee Plaza. A family in Werribee hiding in their bathroom while their house is shot up by a gang with a shotgun and a machete. A man shot dead in the CBD. This is the new normal in Melbourne, and anyone who tells you otherwise is either lying or living in a completely different reality. And the weapon of choice? The machete. A bloody machete. What happened to the old days where if you had a problem with someone, you'd have a punch on after school and that was the end of it? Now it's gangs of 8 cowards with machetes hunting down kids. And the police? They're seizing a record number of machetes, 40 a day. But it's like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. For every one they take off the streets, there are 10 more to replace it. And it's the sheer brutality of it that's so shocking. We're not talking about a fistfight that gets out of hand. We're talking about premeditated, calculated acts of extreme violence. These aren't just kids having a blue. These are predators hunting in packs. The psychological impact of this on the community is devastating. People are scared to leave their homes. They're scared to let their kids play outside. They're living in a constant state of fear, and that's no way to live. This isn't just a crime problem. This is a social breakdown. This is a sign that something is deeply, deeply wrong in our society, and we need to start talking about it. Honestly. This isn't the Australia I grew up in, and I'll be damned if I'm going to sit back and watch it be destroyed by a bunch of thugs and the gutless politicians who enable them. So why is this happening? Why is Melbourne turning into a war zone? Well, the politically correct crowd will tell you it's about poverty and disadvantage, and sure, that's part of it, but it's not the whole story, is it? The uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to talk about is that a lot of this violence is being committed by a small minority of kids from African immigrant communities. And before you start screaming racist, let's be clear. The vast majority of people who have come to this country from places like Sudan and Somalia are good, hard-working people who just want a better life for their families. They're just as horrified by this violence as you and I are. But there is a small, violent minority of young men who have brought the gang culture of their war-torn homelands to the streets of Melbourne. They have no respect for our laws, no respect for our culture, and no respect for human life. They're running around in gangs, calling themselves the Bloods and the Crips, like they're in some kind of gangster movie. But this isn't a movie. This is real life, and real people are dying. And what are we doing about it? We're tiptoeing around the issue, terrified of being called racist. We're letting these gangs run riot, terrorizing our communities because we're too scared to have an honest conversation about what's really going on.
We have to address the elephant in the room. So, and this comes as a result of collective responsibility, whether the government or the opposition.
And let's be honest, this isn't a new problem. We've been seeing this for years. The Apex gang, the riots in the city, the home invasions. It's been a slow-motion car crash that everyone saw coming, but nobody wanted to do anything about. And the parents of these kids? My heart goes out to them. They came to this country for a better life, to escape the violence and chaos of their homelands. And now their own children are recreating that same violence and chaos on the streets of Melbourne. It's a tragedy, a complete and utter tragedy. But sympathy for the parents doesn't mean we excuse the actions of their children. We need to hold these young offenders accountable. We need to send a clear message that this kind of behaviour will not be tolerated in our society. And if that means deporting them and their families, then so be it. Well, I'm not scared. And you shouldn't be either. It's not racist to say that there is a problem with a specific community. It's not racist to demand that people who come to this country abide by our laws and respect our values. And it's not racist to say that we need to do something about this before it's too late. And where are our leaders in all of this? Where are the politicians who are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to keep us safe? They're either silent or they're spouting the same old politically correct nonsense that got us into this mess in the first place.
Focus in the past day or so has been to support communities that are grieving. And I make no apologies for spending time and listening to people, understanding their pain and their grief and their anguish.
They're telling us that Victoria is a safe place to live, that crime is going down. They're living in a fantasy land, completely detached from the reality that the rest of us are living in. They're more interested in virtue signalling and pandering to special interest groups than they are in tackling the real problems that are facing our society. They're more interested in their own careers than they are in the safety of our children.
The opposition leader was booted out of question time.
As the crime increases and people continuously get bailed.
Leader of the opposition.
You will have to leave the chamber for an hour. I will not tolerate this kind of disrespect to the chair.
Brad Batten suspended for the day.
And you want to silence the opposition?
Leader of the opposition.
They are more concerned with their public image and their re-election prospects than they are with the safety and well-being of the people they are supposed to represent. They are cowards, plain and simple, and the police are caught in the middle. They are under-resourced, overstretched and hamstrung by a politically correct bureaucracy that won't let them do their jobs. They know who the bad guys are. They know where they live, but they are not being given the green light to go in and clean up this mess once and for all. And the media is just as bad. They're so terrified of being accused of racism that they're actively covering up the truth. They're blurring the faces of the offenders. They're refusing to mention their ethnicity. They're doing everything they can to hide the reality of what's going on. This isn't just incompetence. This is a deliberate, managed decline of our society. They are sacrificing our safety, our culture, and our way of life on the altar of political correctness. And it's not just happening in Melbourne. It's happening all over the country. We are being sold out by a political and media elite that has nothing but contempt for ordinary Australians. This is a failure of leadership at every level. And it is a betrayal of the trust that we, the people, have placed in our institutions. It's a betrayal of the Australian people. Well, I've had enough. And I know you have too. It's time to stand up and say no more. It's time to demand that our leaders start putting the interests of Australian citizens first. It's time to take back our country. What we are seeing in Melbourne is not just a crime wave. It is a warning. It is a glimpse into the future of Australia if we continue down this path of political correctness, mass immigration, and cultural surrender. It is a future where our streets are not safe, where our children are not safe, and where our way of life is a distant memory. But it doesn't have to be this way. We can change course, we can demand better from our leaders, we can fight for our country, and that's what we're doing here at Outback Crisis. We are fighting for the real Australia, the Australia of mateship, of a fair go, of a country where you can walk down the street without fear. If you want to be part of that fight, then I urge you to join our Patreon. It's where we can speak freely without fear of censorship. It's where we can organise and strategise and build a movement to take back our country. The link is in the description. Join us, because the fight for Australia is the fight for our lives. To see the latest Australian crisis, click this video here.